A lot of Minneapolis homeowners think if our home sells for a certain number, that's basically what we walk away with. But that's not actually how selling a home works, because between closing costs, agent compensation, moving expenses, repairs, taxes, and other financial surprises, the amount sellers actually walk away with can look very different than expected, and for some homeowners, that realization comes way too late in the process, which is exactly why this conversation matters. Because if you're even thinking about selling anywhere in Minneapolis, St. Paul, or the greater Twin Cities area, understanding the hidden costs of selling can help you plan smarter, reduce stress, and avoid expensive surprises later. So in this video, I'm breaking down the most common costs sellers forget, what impacts your net proceeds, why moving costs more than people expect, and how to think strategically before listing your home. Because at the end of the day, the goal is clarity, not pressure. Now first, let's talk about one of the biggest misconceptions sellers have. A lot of homeowners naturally focus on what could our home sell for? But the more important question is, what would we actually walk away with? Those are two very different numbers, and this is where homeowners sometimes get caught off guard because people emotionally anchor themselves to the sales price without fully accounting for everything that happens between accepting an offer and receiving those proceeds at closing. So let's start talking about some of the most common costs that sellers forget. The first one is closing related expenses. Every transaction is going to be different, but sellers are often responsible for various costs tied to title work, transfer related fees, prorated taxes, and other transaction expenses. And while none of these individually may feel shocking, combined together, they absolutely matter, especially when homeowners are trying to budget for their next move. Now, another major category people underestimate is preparing the home for sale, because before many homes ever hit the market, sellers often spend money on paint, cleaning, landscaping, minor repairs, some lighting, decluttering, staging related preparation, and some of those deferred maintenance items. And sometimes those costs add up faster than expected, especially if homeowners wait until the last minute to prepare. That's one reason planning early matters so much. And another thing sellers don't always think about is moving itself is expensive, even before buying another house, because moving may include movers, storage, new utility setup, temporary housing, deposits, furniture changes, and overlapping payments during transition periods. And if someone is buying another home simultaneously, those expenses can stack up quickly. That's why I always encourage homeowners to look at the full financial picture, not just the listing price. Now, let's talk about repairs and negotiations for a minute, because this is another area that surprises sellers. Sometimes buyers request repairs, credits, concessions, or adjustments during the negotiations. That doesn't happen in every transaction, but it's important to understand that negotiation flexibility often matters during the selling process. And emotionally, this is where some sellers become frustrated, because they may feel we already maintain the house, but buyers are evaluating condition, competition, and perceived value relative to the market. Now, here's another important thing homeowners should understand. Your home value is not the same thing as your usable equity, and that's a huge distinction, because usable equity is what remains after mortgage payoff, selling costs, and transaction-related expenses. That number is what impacts your next down payment, your financial flexibility, and your future monthly payment options. And this is exactly why understanding your numbers early is so valuable. Another thing that often gets underestimated or overlooked is the emotional side of moving expenses. Because when costs start stacking together, repairs, movers, utility changes, deposits, and closing related expenses, the process can start feeling overwhelming really quickly. That's why strategic planning matters so much, because clarity reduces stress. Now, here's something I think homeowners should pay attention to. Not every improvement before selling creates meaningful return. Some sellers spend aggressively right before listing, thinking they'll automatically recover every dollar spent. That's not how buyer psychology works. Sometimes simpler improvements like a deep clean, lighter paint, new light fixtures, some refreshed landscaping and presentation create stronger overall perception than expensive remodeling projects. Again, clarity, not pressure. Now, let's talk about timing for a second, because homeowners who plan early usually make better financial decisions, not because they're rushing, because they have time to compare options, prepare financially, and evaluate different scenarios calmly. The homeowners who feel the most stressed are often the ones trying to figure out everything all at once under pressure, and that's true in almost every area of real estate. Now, here's another thing sellers should be thinking about. What matters the most is not necessarily maximizing every dollar possible. It's understanding what moving realistically costs, what monthly payment feels comfortable afterward, and whether the move improves your lifestyle overall, because financial peace matters, lifestyle matters, and flexibility matters. Here's one thing I keep seeing right now. It's homeowners delaying planning because they're nervous what the numbers might show. But understanding your numbers early creates more options, not fewer. Because if someone decides now is not the right time to move, that's still incredibly valuable clarity. And if they decide moving does make sense, they can move forward with much more confidence. And by the way, if you are thinking about buying or selling anywhere in Minneapolis, St. Paul, or the greater Twin Cities area, make sure to subscribe, because I make weekly videos helping homeowners and home buyers better understand this market, avoid expensive mistakes, and make smarter real estate decisions with clarity, not pressure. Now, before we wrap up, here's probably the biggest takeaway from this conversation. Selling a home is not just about price. It's about strategy, preparation, timing, expenses, and understanding the full financial picture before making decisions. Because when homeowners understand their options early, the process usually feels dramatically less stressful. At the end of the day, the goal is not creating pressure to move. The goal is helping homeowners understand what selling realistically looks like, what moving may actually cost, and what options make the most sense for their goals moving forward. Clarity, not pressure. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have questions about buying or selling anywhere in Minneapolis, St. Paul, or the greater Twin Cities area, feel free to reach out anytime. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.